Great. Okay. So this is overall what we've done, Jose, is when we first really started looking at the data and trying to determine impacts of what we've seen throughout the world. Europe obviously started before the U.S. So when we're first diving into the data, we're really trying to see which KPIs are going to be the biggest indicators for what is to come. Cancellations, it was one of the first things when we went and looked at is how many cancellations are we starting to see throughout the markets. Those really did not come as quickly as we had expected. So we jumped quickly over into percent change in bookings per property compared to last year. So we were trying to really see what the trend was as far as bookings going forward compared historically. It's truly the best way to see really what the temperature of the market is. Sometimes cancellations don't get put in immediately into reservation systems. So that's not always updated as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, our property management company, 360 Blue, we had so many cancellations one day, it took us a week to get them all put in. So some of that data wasn't coming through as quick as we can. What we've shown you here is the percent change for 2019 to 2020 for all of Europe. So this is all the data that we're collecting in Europe. You can see, pretty strong start to the year as far as growth. This is usual to see some spikes and jumps, spikes and valleys here. But you can really start to see starting that January time period, and we've got some dates that we can share further along here. You can really start seeing that the decline starts pretty quickly. Similar to what we've seen in the U.S., Europe had some peaks, even though they'd already dropped down. They had a couple peaks due to people wanting to go and stay in vacation rentals to weather out the storm. I'm not sure the specifics of how that's worked, but I know that has to do with some of the peaks and valleys we're seeing here. But as you get further along the data, you can unfortunately see us dropping down to almost 100% down compared to historical years. So quick overview there, and we'll jump into a couple countries as we go forward here. Another thing we are looking at, especially with spring breaks and announcements of closures in certain areas, is when those bookings were supposed to arrive. So this chart's going to show you for bookings made on a particular day, were they for arrivals within 30 days, which is the orange line, or were they arrivals within 30 to 60 days, or were they over 60 days? This is similar to what we've seen throughout all the different countries we looked at in Europe, that the bookings for arrivals within 30 days stayed stronger and stayed higher than the rest of the arrivals all the way through. Obviously, you can see up until present day, they're staying stronger. I do think that's got a lot to do with people weathering the storm and wanting to stay in a vacation rental and extending current stays. Also think that that's going to be accompanied with your owner stays. So owners actually leaving the city and staying in their actual vacation rentals. Any questions on that one, Jose, or thoughts internally?
Well, what I saw is a tremendous, after it was in January in the previous slide when the China started to publish the information about that's the previous. There, and when you see on the end of January, it was the tendency. It didn't got any valley anymore, any peak, so it just went down. So I think that those were that was the moment when people realized. So it's amazing that from a social perspective, most of the countries, they were reacting like nothing, but travelers, they saw that what was going to happen. So we have seen there gradually in Europe and also in the US that people in society in general were not reacting. But it seems that only travelers saw it coming. So you see that they're from January and February, beginning of March, when no government was giving any restrictions, any alarms or whatsoever, people were going down and booking. So they realized that something was going on. So it calls my attention because in one hand you see that a lot of people did like nothing, like nothing happened. And same as here in the US, no? We are now restricted to stay at home. In Florida, we have orders yesterday from the governor, and state of emergency was declared a week ago, but it was no specific instructions to stay at home or whatsoever. It was very normal. but you see there that from January the travelers, they started to cancel their bookings, which means a lot. Do we know if this corresponds more to our urban area or beach area, or is it specific or is general?
This is going to be a general overview of all of the data. We have looked at and are currently working on dividing up our urban versus leisure markets. Some of the difficulties there is just geofencing each different market, because a lot of our companies have units inside of urban markets as well as leisure. So we're working on that, and we'll update that on our website once we get a true update of urban versus leisure. I think urban was probably impacted earlier than this curve. So I think your urban would be a little down here if you were to draw a trend line, and then leisure stays up stronger until, obviously we've hit the bottom, as we have in the U.S. as well.
But I also see an interesting date. If you go back again, I think that you see there by the beginning of March, it was some climbing ups, and then by the 10th of March, down. And I think that when OTAs started to automatically cancel all the bookings, independently on the exchange of information between the property managers and the travelers. It seems that at a certain point, the OTAs unilaterally, they canceled most of the bookings, and there's when you see there was no way to recover at all the booking. So somehow during that period, it seems that some bookings were recovered by property managers, and suddenly they all fell down because OTAs just automatically and unilaterally, they canceled most of the bookings.
Yeah, and it's interesting too to see what different policies, Airbnb's policy versus VRBO's policy, and who the source of record is for holding the cash, and how that's playing out in the U.S. I've heard some disturbing things. I'm not sure if they're going to be held to, but it will be interesting to see how the OTAs in the U.S. end up playing out refunds, cancellations, and their communication to travelers.
Definitely, a lot of people will bring them to court, and we will see, because contract policies are to be respected. But anyways, we could see in this graph in which dates they decided to do these policies and how that affected too.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and us being just a little more in tune with the U.S. data, these peaks and valleys, if you looked at this same chart for the United States, will directly correlate to when the president addressed the nation, or different policy changes, or different news events that actually hit the wire. So it is interesting to tie that to specific events. We'll jump into that a little bit further down here as we continue onward.
Okay.
So I know this is close at heart for you, Jose. Having Avantio based out of Spain, but showing you trend lines, and we added these trend lines in here to show the differences in what we saw in Italy versus Spain, and how much more drastically it hit Italy than Spain as far as percent of bookings. And then what we've got over here are the actual confirmed cases. So just to sort of show you that inverse correlation here with the drop off.
Yeah, we have a lot of friends in Italy, and obviously in Spain too. We are based in Spain, but we saw that Italy is a particular case, because Italy, it was locked down the north. There was no infections in the south, so they locked down the north. So the north of Italy, the area like Milan area, on that area is I would say economically very strong. So it was a lot of movement in that area. But the south of Italy is more vacation rental. So the south of Italy, Naples, Sicily, Florence, well, not Florence, but perhaps Rome, Amalfi Costa, all that area, the south of Italy is more on vacation rental. They were less affected. No, the exchange we have with our customers is that some of them, they already have booked summer holidays, and people still see a bit far summer, so they're not canceling. But truly, the number of infections have affected. Indeed, the stigma created by the authorities in Italy immediately locked down a lot of countries going to Italy. In reality, a lot of countries prohibited flights to Italy. That was something crazy. But this is why a lot of bookings also dropped dramatically.
Yeah, and it could be, the distribution between the north being locked down first. It could have been why bookings held on, here all the way through almost the end of February,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. Diving into to what we saw on the data team side. You all know the markets far better than we do, but we were all discussing, what the spike in bookings in Spain could have been from,
I
whether
can
it
tell
was Italy
I
being
can tell
closed
you.
down or whether it was drive-in, people booking because they wanted to go and weather the storm per se in a vacation rental. So
Now,
interested to hear your thoughts on that.
that peak over there responds to Valencia because it was the local celebrations of Las Fallas. So there were a lot of people booking, and not until they were canceled, it was about the 8th or the 10th of March, they were canceled, or even a bit more. And at that point, they canceled. So there were a lot of bookings before the Fallas. Fallas is the local party in Valencia, and it's a folkloric party where they bring. I think the value, it was calculated $100 million in total during that period. So a lot of people was booking to attend to those events, and they were not canceled. They were canceled later on, and then you had all that cancellation. So that peak over there maybe corresponds to Valencia.
Yeah, and I think I was also looking at another one that could have been in response to there was a lot of shutdown, or let's see, I can't remember where I saw that, but it was cancellations that'll probably hit. I was trying to pull up our Spain cancellation chart. I don't think we have this in this slide deck, but you'll see as we continue onward here, we're showing percent of bookings compared to cancellations. So I was looking for that for Spain because I bet that would correlate directly with what you're looking for. So what we're showing here is our bookings, and again, this is bookings made compared to cancellations. So this is for the entire European market, canceled stays versus bookings made.
Yeah.
You can see these peaks are going to definitely correlate with regulations set in place by Italy and Spain. I think this one's probably one from Spain to start. Italy's, let's see where we had here. The Italy cancellation date was, or lockdown date was 3/9. So you can see that spike here, and that'll correlate back to our spike here on 3/9 as well.
Yeah, but you can see there the 10th of March, boom, a high drop on bookings, and that was when the local authorities canceled the fires. I think they were canceled the 8th or the 9th.
That's right. That's right. And we've got some of those a little bit further in here. This is England, which we probably could have put towards the end there, just because there were, a lot of different. Nothing was really announced until the past couple days, but you can see immediately upon announcement. And again, this data is updated every 2 hours for most of the data sources we pull. You can see right when they announced it, cancellation spiked. So we're seeing that in our data, right? As we were discussing before, all of the different public announcements that have been coming out directly correlate to what's happening in the data here, almost more so than we've seen in the U.S. as well.
Okay.
Is this a good flow, Jose? You think continue sort of just jump through the states or jump through the countries as we continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll let you jump in, and we can, again, cancellations are really tying directly to the dates that the countries announced specific lockdowns for their countries. You can even see the spike in bookings here made, which we saw throughout the rest of the data. I do think that's similar to the U.S., where people were looking to weather the storm, so to speak, at vacation rentals, but it quickly declined and dropped off.
Well, actually, in France, the president announced to the nation, I believe the 10th of the 11th, that there were going to be restrictions. France started first than any other country, almost parallel to Italy, to say that this was serious and they had to take measures. So I think that may be the reason why you have the bookings climbing up until that point, but then dropping down. dramatically after the 11th. And then cancellations were usually a couple of days after.
Exactly. And sort of as we were discussing earlier, unfortunately, the data we're looking at now is not the light at the end of the tunnel. It really is, going down the dark hole that we've been going down. The beauty is we are starting to see some return to normalcy and some of the eastern countries, and we're starting to see that in certain areas in the U.S. So I'm looking forward to when we get to hop on another call and walk through the data points we're seeing where the light is coming and we are starting to really get out of this hole that we've been put into.
Yeah.
No surprise here. Cancellations again just skyrocketed. I was really surprised as far as this data point of bookings pushing up here in Italy. I think it could have been based on, homeowners actually booking locations, or it could have been just the way that cancellations were moved. So if these cancellations were actually put back into the system, not as canceled stays, but as future stays, these could be the correlation of bookings here.
Maybe they were renegotiated with the OTAs.
It could have been. It absolutely could have been.
This may explain why platforms like Airbnb suddenly decided to cancel them. I believe they may got afraid of that. They were controlling, we are canceling bookings, and then they immediately get occupied again, because OTAs are synchronizing the calendar, so they know when they are canceled, and if they 2-3 days later are booked again, they may thought it was a way that they were losing customers, but I don't know why, but they suddenly wrote to all the tourists and travelers that they were refunded 100%, and they just literally clean up all the bookings. So that maybe explains why it falls down together afterwards, the bookings and cancellations. It really, it may be a coincidence on the date. We need to see when they started to do that.
Mm-hmm. But obviously looking at all the countries' data is what gives us the clear view there. So Portugal, obviously we were all supposed to attend the Verma Europe conference that was, I believe, on the 17th, if that serves me right. If my memory serves me right, it was supposed to be on the 17th, which was a day before Portugal announced the state of emergency. Very clear data. Portugal's got a really strong increase in bookings going up all the way until the 10th. This is when a lot of the news throughout Europe started to be published, as we've been discussing so far, and then cancellations just skyrocketing. Obviously, you can see the peak here for those particular announcements, and then another one here as well as we continue forward. So,
Portugal, it has three main areas are in Portugal. The south, where it's called the area Algarve, where you had a lot of bookings. That's a seasonal area. It's for summer. It's very powerful. There is a lot of vacation rentals there. And then you have two other main areas, which are Porto and Lisbon. And in Lisbon city, cancellations were huge, and same as Porto. Porto is a city in the north of Portugal that is a lot of vacation rental properties, very famous, very good. And but they also suffer all these cancellations. So when the government declared a state of emergency, definitely most of the bookings dropped. But you still see some bookings there during that period, and I think they all correspond to the summer. They are very confident, and I strongly believe that I would say by middle June, maybe end of June, the sector will recover in terms of bookings, because most of the authorities, governments will start declaring that it's possible to get out. A high percentage of the population will be immunized, which means that the virus will drop its capacity to infect others. And obviously the economy is going to crash. So somehow people needs to get out of their homes, needs to go on holiday. I believe that there are going to be a lot of local holiday. They're not going to be international traveling or whatsoever, but a lot of local people will travel inside their countries, because you need to get out of your home. After 3 months locked at home, believe me, you need holiday, especially in beach areas, sun, houses with swimming pool where you can still get your own privacy, not mixing too much, but holiday. And I think that everybody will need a holiday. So I'm confident that there is now a good time to start promoting the summer season in some areas in Europe in general.
And I completely agree with that sentiment. For the local drive-in markets are really going to be where people are going to be looking to get away, and it's just going to be an escape away from home. It's not just, as you were saying, obviously the beaches and in a place that you can escape that's private is obviously going to be popular. I do think that vacation rentals are going to have a quicker recovery than hotels, but I think people are just looking for an escape from their home, regardless of where the rental is. So I do think that urban cities are going to see a growth, not quite as quickly as leisure markets, but that's something that the data can show us as we get closer. When we start seeing our bookings, our percentage of bookings starting to increase, we can look directly at where those people are booking for, what times they're booking for, and where they're coming from. So we can really truly determine where those markets are going to be growing in, and also help property managers know exactly who they need to be marketing to and at what time point.
You took an interesting point about urban, talking about urban. I think that urban areas have been damaged by the decision of some governments of locking down everything, right? But I think that when the states of emergency will be ended in different countries, travelers will prefer to stay in private homes, in vacation rental, rather than hotels. People are going to run out of hotels because hotels are public areas, and they, unfortunately, and we are rival sectors, but unfortunately for them, they have been strongly stigmatized in Spain, because some cases of people locked down in hotels just because one person was infected. Now, same as boats and cruises. Now, who in his mind today will go and do a cruise? No one, because what happened with cruise in California and in some other countries, even in Europe, it was really has stigmatized that way. It's going to take some long. So I think that urban areas, they may also have an opportunity once this state of emergency will be ended. And definitely, if they do a good job, if they really push their visibility, and they do a good job promoting their companies and their properties, I think they may get a lot of customers, because I believe people will feel more secure and safe to staying in a vacation rental property rather than a hotel, to be honest, because they feel like home is more, more private. And I think this is an opportunity also to the sector to change, because a lot of things will change after this crisis.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what some of the data points that we actually already have to back that up are based in the U.S. here in our local market in the Florida, Alabama Panhandle. So when it was announced that spring breaks for all of the schools throughout the Southeast feeder markets were extended through the end of March, or school was canceled until the end of March, bookings skyrocketed for all vacation rental homes throughout the Panhandle of Florida, because that is a natural spring break destination. Now, if we look at hotel data for that particular time, it wasn't updated live, but we were able to correlate it to some of the hotel data we're able to access as well. It was far, far lower. So I do think that sentiment is already backed by data, and we will see it as it continues to grow. But that's just one instance that can show you that I do believe that will come in the future. Another thing that I thought was a great point to discuss, and something that it sounds like we'll be discussing on Friday, is the cleanliness and the cleaning policies that vacation rental managers have. And I think communicating that extremely effectively and efficiently to all of the guests that you do have coming, all your historical guests, and have a very clear policy for housekeeping is going to be important going forward. So I know that's a little separate from the data we're discussing now, but I do think that that'll be a part of the property managers that really do thrive during this time period when we start coming back from the bottom we're at now. So jumping in, just adjusted paid occupancy. Wanted to show a couple different charts here that's showing really the decline and comparing it to last year. This is March 24th and March 27th. That's just the same day a week compared to last year. So we're looking at a true apples to apples comparison. Sharp decline, right? You can see an absolutely sharp decline here as far as our adjusted paid occupancy. If you do look at owner occupancy, which is a KPI we have, we can actually determine whether it's an owner pulled or an actual paid stay. You can see that the occupancies are much higher in a lot of the different charts that we're seeing. You know, owners are going to stay in their units to, like I've been saying throughout our call, weather the storm. Jumping over to France, similar data. You can just see it just really hitting the bottom here. It's pacing. This is obviously pacing for a little farther out. I do feel like we are going to drop down pretty significantly because of the bookings by date, or the percentage change in bookings, as we've seen in our previous slides for these countries, has really dropped off. So while right now it looks like we're pacing similar to where we were last year, at least from May on, I do think that that's going to slow down a little bit here. Any thoughts on this slide, Jose?
Yeah, well, what I see is not big differences. I only see that, as you know, putting across the year, you have right after in September, from September to December, you have approximately 30% of the bookings that takes for the next season. And then you have from January to April, May, 40%, and then the rest comes out last minutes, etc. So I don't see many differences from last year to this year in terms of, I see a growth this year on paid occupancy, and obviously a drop down by March. But if you go on May, June, July, August, it's even higher. So it's recovering because I believe those bookings are not canceled yet. So most of people have or prefer to not cancel for the moment. And obviously, I believe because most of them, they have restricted cancellation policies, which is something must be changed right now because most of the property managers that they have lost a lot of bookings. The only way to recover bookings will be readjusting pricing and booking restrictions. So more flexibility, better price will encourage people to believe that there is an option and also to consume a product. No? So I see that this year it's pretty good, not that bad, even better than last year, very similar. But let's see. Maybe it will grow. Maybe in the next couple of months will grow because this seems to be ended by the end of the season. So by the end of May, beginning of June, it seems that the state of alarm will be over. And also because we are seeing very important signs on the economy as well, because we cannot forget that this crisis has three similar crises at the same time: the social crisis, the healthy crisis, and the economical crisis. The economical crisis, yesterday, the Congress of the US approved $2 trillion to recover the economy, which means that all the markets immediately went green, all of them on top, because they see that there's going to be cash flow and it's going to be enough money to cover all the consequences of this short period. So the markets, they trust the economy. It's only the health situation that now people want to protect themselves. They are scared and fear and they stay home, that will impeach these bookings. But as long as the people will start getting confidence again to get out and recover their normal lives, I think that this blue line will stand up again.
I agree. And it shows people are holding on, right? We've seen that throughout all the data we're looking at, that it really is everyone's holding on to those bookings that are over 60 days out. So I hope that continues to hold and the news continues to improve. One more, Italy. You can see here it's very similar to what we were discussing last time, or for France. Adjusted paid occupancy is still staying a little higher. Obviously, we had a massive drop off, in the month of March, which is to be expected, but still staying stronger than we would have expected.
Okay. Yeah, similar situation. It's almost a copy on. Can you go back one?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. Well,
Yeah.
it's almost all of them. If you go back, you see that by the 10th of May, they all drop down. You see May, boom, boom. More drastical on the Portugal one, but by the 10th of May, yeah. And then they follow the same line.
They are. So that's hope, right? You know, keep that's what every property management company is looking for right now. And, you know, obviously us being tied to a property management company as well, that's what the whole team's looking for, is the hope and what we've got coming forward. So it's much more drastic in Portugal, as we can see here from the data. You know, that's a big percentage of occupancy that's been lost, but I do think that we're going to have, like you said, people are going to get stir crazy and they're going to want to get out of the house. So I do think we're going to see higher travel trends for at least the drive-in markets once this is over. I don't think, you know, international travel will pick up quite as quickly, but I do think drive-in markets are going to pick up and possibly be higher than normal.
Yeah, but look at that. Look at that. You see, the graph is very similar last year from this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar.
And then finally, we've got adjusted paid occupancy, just the differences between 2020 and 2019. And you can see that clear drop here, but this is again is correlating what we were just talking about, and that's that occupancy is still holding on strong for most reservations that were made 60, 90 days, or that are 70, 90 days out. Unfortunately, I do expect this to change because we've seen that percentage of bookings has completely plummeted. So this is true pacing as of today. I expect this to drop down a little bit, but I do think that last minute bookings are going to be really what differentiate the winners in the property management world from the losers, and making sure that who's able to get out of here strong. So last minute bookings, making sure you have the correct rates and the correct marketing at the right time is going to be important for pulling out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree, and this graph shows how it's going to recover. It's true that we have a lot of property managers that they don't have enough experience or knowledge about the experience in the situation. I think no one had, but there were previous situations of crisis that where we could learn from it. That they were telling us that in terms of frightening, it's better not to overreact in short term. It's always to take a deep breath and think about middle term. And I think that graph you just showed is going to produce a pick up and a lot of last minute, taking into account the economy also, which means that people will, it's not the same situation, but if pricing is good, if conditions of cancellation is good, if you give security to people, definitely occupation will rise by the end of the time.
I completely agree. And just to cover a couple of things that we're doing for for partners that are using key data, we have specific reports. We've been overwhelmed with phone calls, so it really has been all hands on deck for us here. Overwhelmed with phone calls of people trying to analyze the data, see what they can do. You know, as of now, we've pretty much bookings have completely dropped and stopped. So the biggest thing is going to be making sure to pay attention to the different reports we built out specifically. For the virus, and then see when things start picking up, so that you can not only tell, all right, my company is starting to pick up, but the entire market around me is as well. So we've got some specific reports here that are going to show you and be tailored specifically for analyzing your data during this time. Just launched this percentage of change, bookings percent change by date as well into our property management portal. It was launched yesterday actually. And has already had great feedback from all our partners. So very clear when you're in the system where these are. This obviously had a notification over here, but we'll be able to show you, exactly what's happening. This is our personal property management company, 360 Blue. You can obviously see we're about where everyone else is right now. So waiting for that curve to start jumping back up, and excited for when it's going to happen, so that we can use some of our market insights to make sure our marketing team is back on and ready to get summer full, hopefully.
I have a crystal ball in my office,
I
and
love that.
I can tell you, I am really confident that the market will recover by the end of May, beginning of June. So the recommendation definitely will be get ready for when that happens. Have a strategy plan, prepare your structure, think about your pricing. I think the work you just have shown is really valuable. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much to you, Scott, and to Rob and Jason as well, because you guys have been contributing to the community, providing information, which is very useful. I think that obviously you will keep on working during all this time. So you guys are the eyes of people in this darkness that we are facing right now. So when you see the data starts moving on, it would be great to share again and do another webinar to show and especially to help those who think that they see all dark. It's we must see that a lot of small companies, some property managers with 40 properties, 30 properties, 50 properties, the small ones, they are now locked down too at home, seeing that everything goes really bad and believe this is the end of the world, and it's not. It's just a crisis, and after a crisis, everything changes. So it's thousands of opportunities to find new sources, new niches of customers. There is always thousands of ways, and definitely, if you stay at home crying and taking bad decisions, you will definitely not go out of this. No? But I think everything will be okay after the healthy crisis. The economical crisis is going to affect, yes, but we need to assume that it has affected. And now we have two options: stand up and work, or stay, sit and cry.
Absolutely, and I think to emphasize one of those points as well is we need to be prepared. Everyone should be taking this time to be prepared for when it does come back. Know what your data is. Make sure you know exactly the ticks, and when pay attention to our website. We're updating it live on a daily basis of what's really happening in the market. So when things really start to turn around, and we see that in the data, marketing needs to be ready to react. We need to be ready to jump back into it and make sure that, like I said earlier, I think short, last minute bookings are going to be huge for the summer.
Yes.
So making sure that our strategy is formulated around that with data is going to be valuable.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you very much for your help. Just one last message I'd like to tell to the audience, which is independently on the situation, how hard it is, the worst thing you can do right now is fire your employees. I think one of the key pillars of your business is the knowledge, the experience of people working with you. I know it's a threat, and a lot of people don't see clear the future, but firing people right now may be a big mistake, because those are the ones who can help you to go back again into the business. So if you get out of your business right now the most valuable thing you have, which is your employees, you may be in serious trouble when you want to get them back, because this is now time to cover also people. Now it's a hard times, and I don't think it's very nice when you have to say goodbye to any member of your team, because that's completely a wrong decision from my point of view.
Agreed. There's options. Obviously, it's not easy decisions, but there are other options aside from letting employees go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and I see you in the next webinar or next meeting, where we can maybe share with other stakeholders of the sector, and where we can share and give more tips to people. And I think that a lot of people in the sector will judge at the end of this crisis how companies and how people reacted on this situation, and how they turn it to help each other and support each other, because we are just a small sector in a big crisis. But we need to protect each other. We need to keep and hold the sector in general among all of us, because if we lose customers, we lose travelers, we lose visibility, we're all going to lose.
Agreed. Everyone can be a good leader during good times, but it's the rainy day leaders that are the ones that truly shine. And I think that's going to be very, very well heard and heard loudly around property management companies and the industry as well. So,
okay. Well, guys,
I'm hoping we have our call here to go over the good news data, in the not so near future. So looking forward to that, and we'll talk